Good morning. You're listening to WPVM LP in Asheville, North Carolina. And we're on 103.7 on the dial. This is the BLAINESWORLD show, heard each Wednesday here at 9 a.m. And you can also watch us on WPVM's Facebook page. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, in my Zoom studio here in downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on the Asheville theater scene, as well as on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. To that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Cindy Smith, Executive Director at the Jewish Family Services here in Asheville. And you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends in Facebook world. Okay, so that's Cindy Smith. And first of all, I have to thank you, Cindy, for two reasons. First of all, for finally getting to be on my show. I know we've been trying to hook up for a while. And if I can share with the audience what a trooper you are, because you're now not at your offices, you're located where now?
I am located in the auxiliary room of my home, hiding away from the world.
Okay, explain why you're hiding from the world if you can.
Because after 2 years and a few months, I have stumbled upon the COVID campaign.
Okay, campaign, right? And and had you gotten the shots? Now somebody I know was very annoyed. A friend of mine, he had gotten the shots and he got the 2 boosters, and then he got it. Had you gotten the boosters too?
Yes.
Okay, but you're at least smiling and you feeling okay?
I feel like I have a mild head cold, and I can use this experience for all of my missteps over the last couple days. But I really don't. I don't feel awful.
Now, how long are you sequestered there?
So 5 days from the day of symptoms, and then 5 days with a mask. I can come out of this room with a mask, so it's a total of 10 days.
Okay, well, anyway, I really appreciate the fact that you're with us. So I think that's really cool that you're a real trooper.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, well, I should mention Cindy joined the Asheville community in October 2020 from Seal Beach, California, where she was a nonprofit professional for various community organizations. Her passion for engaging and supporting underserved communities and helping those who are most critically in need is what landed her in the nonprofit sector. She was born in Southfield, Michigan. She's a graduate of Michigan State University School of Journalism. Prior to career as a nonprofit professional for 10 years, she worked as a newsroom director at Detroit News, as a brand manager for Detroit Media Partnerships. She loves exploring the outdoors with her husband, toddler son, and terrier porch. Together they camp, hike, and travel. On any given weekend, they enjoy swim lessons at the Jewish Community Center, farm hopping, and enjoying a beer at Highland Brewery, or out walking around Beaver Lake. And Cindy, that's quite a background you have. When you were a kid, I'm just curious, when you were a kid growing up in Southfield, Michigan, did you always know you wanted to be a head of a nonprofit in Asheville, North Carolina?
Absolutely not. No.
What did you want to be?
I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to write, and I wanted to write stories that I knew that would educate people and help people understand the world around them from a very fact-based perspective. I think I got this from the nightly news clippings that my mom made me tear out. She was a Detroit public school teacher, and I would have to peel out some clippings from the newspaper, and I'd have to share why I picked that one and what I learned about it. And that it just stuck. It really did. Night after night of talking about newspaper articles.
It's funny, you started out as a journalism major? Because that's funny you said that, because that had been my background too originally. And then I got out of it, and boy, am I glad I got out of it. You know, journalism's changed a little bit since you were a kid.
Well, everybody's a journalist.
Well, I guess telling a story, in that sense. But it's to work for, a daily paper, it's just not the same what it was.
That's right. And I wasn't so much in line with the upper management and how they were running the organization. I didn't feel like we were necessarily reporting the most important news. I felt like we were reporting, what was on the mind of top management. And it didn't feel right anymore. It didn't fulfill my civic duty. And so I took my skill set and I tried to figure out how to transfer it.
How long were you with the Detroit News?
Around, let's call it 8 years.
Okay, and do they still publish?
Oh, absolutely.
No,
a
because
great newspaper.
yeah,
Both
but
newspapers, two newspaper town.
right. But I'm saying, wow, it still is two newspaper
Yep.
town. You don't see that often. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. So at some point in time, after 8 years, you decided to take your skill set, and so explain that transition, how you kind of moved from one thing into where you are now.
Sure. So I did spend a lot of time in my early adult years, philanthropy on different boards and committees, specifically in the Jewish community in Metro Detroit. And when I decided to switch gears after journalism and I moved to California, I was really taking some time to process what exactly it is that will fill my cup. And at that point, the thing that I adored most about my time in Detroit during newspaper time was my philanthropy, actually, was the time that I was allowed to give back. And so I ventured over to the Jewish Federation of Orange County and I knocked on their door and said, I'm a budding nonprofit professional. Here's my skill set. Here's my resume. Where do I fit in? And you know, the nonprofit world, they just opened that door right up and said, you can write? Great, come on in.
So
You have
wait,
energy? Come on in.
you got hired on the spot?
Within days, yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's some great story. You know, just for anybody listening that, you know, if you have something you want to do, just volunteer or do it. So you were in California. At that time you were in California. How'd you wind up in Asheville?
So I was in California from 2012 onward, and in that time, you know, I did what my mom had hoped I wouldn't do, which was find the love of my life in California, um, which my mom thought would keep me in California. But then we had a child, and then we decided we really wanted to be closer to the family. And I do have cousins who live here who were born and raised here. So I do have a family connection here in Asheville, and I have spent some time here. We determined that this was the environment we wanted to raise our child in. It was close to my hometown in Detroit. It was close to a lot of other family, yet it was in the environment we really wanted to live in.
Yeah, and it's also kind of cool. I don't know if you just saw it. It was in the paper the other day that Asheville was also just rated as one of the top climate haven cities in the country. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the reasons we moved here. I just love it, in large part because of the weather. You can't beat it, as opposed to you won't miss the Detroit winters.
I did actually miss the seasons
Yeah,
for a long time in California. And one of the things I was most excited about when we moved here was the seasons, even the winters. And I do have a lot of fond memories of those like snot freezing days in Detroit where you walk outside and your entire body just is paralyzed, frozen. There is something to say about experiencing those times. Now, infrequently is much better than the frequency at which I was experiencing
right.
them in Metro Detroit.
Oh, by the way, I'll have to send this to you if you haven't seen it. But we have some good friends who are from Detroit as well. We want to take them. There are now a couple places in Asheville. I don't know if you've seen that advertised Detroit pizza. Have you seen that?
Yes,
Oh, you have. So I can't wait to get there. But is there a Detroit pizza? What
there
makes
is a Detroit
what
pizza.
makes a Detroit pizza?
So there's a square pizza.
Right?
It's got a really nice, like crusty edges. And then the center is really like gooey chewy. It's not really thick like Chicago style pizza
Right,
where
right.
you need like a fork and knife to get through it. Doesn't sit like a gut bomb. It's still really, digestible. And they use like a different combination of cheeses. The one pizza in Detroit that I know has helped to inform what's going on out here is Buddy's Pizza. But the pizza I have had here that claims to be Detroit style is on point for
Oh,
sure.
so
It's on point.
so you've been. I think there. So two places have it. So I sent my wife and I have to get there. So you're in California. Come to Asheville. How'd you find out about Asheville Jewish Family Services? How'd you find that out?
So the nonprofit that I went and knocked on the door of in Orange County at the time when I went to work for them was Jewish Federation and Family Services of Orange County. And so it was both a fundraising arm and then a social services arm, and it's a merged organization. So when we were looking at relocating, I immediately started to research, what does the Jewish community look like in Asheville in terms of both community building, but also Jewish communal work, which is what I have been in for the last 8 years. And I saw that there was a family services, and I had that same sort of, light bulb switch where I thought, if they don't have a job for me, I'll just go volunteer until they have a job for me.
But boy, were you at the right place at the right time. And talk about what happened that made this the perfect opportunity for you.
In terms of leadership?
Well, no, in terms of the person leaving, almost.
Well, my beloved Jessica Whitehill.
Right.
Interestingly enough, we built a relationship before I even moved to Asheville, because it was shared with me that she was relocating her family to New Orleans, to which I said, aha, it's my job. So I applied at that point. However, I was like 12.75 months pregnant. And so when I came out of the other end of now having a baby, and it was now COVID, and I circled back with the organization, I found out that Jessica's family had actually decided to pump the brakes because of COVID, which most of the world was doing. And so she stayed. Jessica stayed, and I sort of just kept my contact with her, and I kept my eyes on the organization. And then we did move here. We moved here before I had a job. And shortly thereafter, again in January, I got a nice ping from my friend Jessica, who shared that she had just announced her resignation again, to which she shared that I should consider applying again.
So, boy, what timing is everything, but that's some fantastic story about timing. And I guess it also points out, Cynthia, hopefully if anybody's listening, that if you see something, just inquire about it, or go after it, and you never know, Or even what you said, I think, tremendous good advice to anybody, that if you don't get it, you can also volunteer. And I've seen a lot of people start out volunteering and leading to full-time jobs, so that's another option as well. For the benefit of people who don't know what Jewish Family Services are, what is it? What's JFS?
Sure. JFS is a well-established 501c3 nonprofit organization with the physical location here in Asheville. We provide a broad array of clinical and social support services for individuals of all faiths throughout Western North Carolina. So just because our offices are here in Asheville, we really want folks to understand that we serve individuals of all faiths, and we serve individuals in Western North Carolina. We really pride ourselves on being welcoming and inclusive, as well as providing one point of entry for a variety of services, many of which are free.
And talk about the services then,
Sure.
Cindy. I'm familiar with some of them, of course, but if you can just kind of maybe run through or highlight some of the key services you offer.
So Healing Solutions Counseling is a clinical mental health counseling program. Remember, we're a nonprofit, so we have 5 different programs as part of our organization. So Healing Solutions Counseling provides mental health counseling for individuals and families ages 18 and over. All sorts of different therapies provided. We have 4 therapists currently on staff and a clinical director who also sees clients. One of the more wonderful opportunities that we have, since we're a nonprofit, is we raise money to support individuals who do not have health insurance. So if you come to us for mental health counseling and you have insurance, you have Medicare, Blue Cross, so on and so forth, you can use your insurance. But if you come to us and you are in between jobs, you do not have insurance on a general basis, we will work with you on a sliding scale, which is a testament to our mission. So that's Healing Solutions Counseling.
And we just on that. So I can remember too, way back when you didn't have that many counselors. You have four full-time counselors and a director, executive director, and a person in charge of the overall?
A clinical director,
Yeah.
which honestly is the key to
Sure.
a very successful mental health counseling program, because I can share with you personally, I am not a therapist.
Right.
I'm a journalist. I'm one of the ists, but I'm not a therapist. I am, and so I needed that support in order to grow the program from a person who's credentialed to run a clinical team. And that has really, the quality of our services is top notch. Our clinical director is an incredible human, providing an incredible depth of skill.
And a shout out to that person. Can you mention that person's name?
Audrey Morris.
Okay, so very nice to have Audrey mentioned in that context. So that's one of the programs. Talk about some of the other programs.
Yep. So our listeners might recall Elder Club,
Right.
which recently rebranded as Phase Place. And so Phase Place is a socialization program for individuals 55 plus who are isolated and or experiencing the onset of cognitive or mobility challenges. And their isolation is causing additional cognitive challenges. And so we hold that program at our office Monday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it includes an incredible homemade meal, vegetarian style homemade meal by our Chef Rachel Kalin, who's been with the program for years, providing this a beautiful communal meal. And programming, we provide really cool, unique, meaningful programming that really helps individuals with whatever it is that they are struggling with, whether it is mobility, whether it is dexterity, whether it is articulating, memory challenges, whatever it is. We have robust programming that is provided by volunteers, and that is, we have docents come in from the Asheville Art Museum to provide programming. We have folks coming in doing reading poetry. We have Dan the science guy come in and show them how to make goo. We have someone who does work with the stars and planets, and it's really robust, and it's all volunteer. So that's Phase Place.
Typically, how many people participate in that program on any given day?
So our maximum capacity is 11 members on any given day. And what we try and do, if we allowed it, every member would come every day. So we want to make sure we're right. We want to make sure we're providing opportunity for people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's so cool about that, Cindy, too, it just seems that the idea of people getting out, as opposed to if they didn't have the opportunity, a lot of them would just stay at home or just be by themselves all the time.
And that's really the problem. Yeah. What isolation does, we know what isolation does to people, and we've experienced that through COVID. Now imagine that that's just sort of like your daily life. So now, without any clear path.
When you were doing that, so you mentioned, so you rotate the people who can come any day. It's not the same 11 all the time. You have different people come at different times.
So we don't necessarily rotate, but we encourage people to give other people opportunity. For instance, if somebody wanted to come 4 days a week, but we really wanted to get someone new in, we would ask, for this person to potentially step back one day of the week. Just to allow for new people to come in and get that same support.
How do they get there?
How do they get there?
Yeah, is there transportation or they have to arrange their own?
Funny you should ask. So today we launched something new and wild. So typically Mountain Mobility provides transportation support. This is a free service through JFS, and Land of Sky Regional and Mountain Mobility all supports this transportation effort. But after we reopened, when COVID, had closed the program for some time, and we reopened, Mountain Mobility's schedule and their capacity was very limited. And it was a barrier to our participation for people if they can't get there. And it's one of the biggest barriers for our aging community locally is transportation. So through a lot of time and effort, we have partnered with the JCC, and we have contracted a driver to drive their minibus And so we are able to bring people to Faye's Place on Mondays through our own transportation. And that started today.
Oh, wow. Very nice. And
Yeah.
talk about, you mentioned COVID. Talk about what happened to the organization when COVID was really bad. Were you operating virtually or what were you doing?
So God bless Jessica Whitehill, because I was not the executive director at the time. She kept that ship afloat. She was pulling buckets of water out and pulling all the stops and just keeping everything going straight away. Virtual platform kept all of our Face Place, and at the time it was still Elder Club members, connected and socialized and engaged. She pivoted to provide weekly volunteer delivered meals so that they would still have their communal meal, because that's a big deal for our Elder Club. She did a complete pivot to telehealth. And so no longer were people able to come into our office and get mental health counseling, but because insurance companies were allowing for virtual visits, we were able to pivot to what we're doing right now. And it was HIPAA compliant, with a few adjustments. Our therapists were able to see their clients virtually. And that was just huge in supporting people whose mental health was deteriorating. I mean, we've seen it. So Jessica really kept things moving forward. And then when I came in, it was time to open up the organization again. So that was my first step as executive director. I started at the end of April, and by May 20th, the organization was reopened and Elder Club was back in the office, and we were offering both telehealth and in person. We had to do a lot of work to make sure it was safe.
Because I was going to ask you about the counseling. Do people still have the option, though, to do it telecounseling if they want?
Oh, absolutely. Virtually, telephone, or in person. Until insurance companies say this isn't happening anymore, we are completely supportive of that. And it really has shown that it is a way to lower barriers to mental health counseling, not just because of communicable disease, but because of mobility issues, because of deep anxiety and inability to literally leave your house to get the help that you need.
No, like you said, I think it's terrific that people have that option, because otherwise they wouldn't participate in some cases. So that's
right.
Fantastic. So let's see. So I know the counseling now. I know the elder, we call it. Then how'd you get the name for it, by the way? You mentioned
Faye's Place.
Yeah.
Is the dear beloved mother of board member and donor David Leader.
Yeah.
And as he was thinking about how he could best support JFS, he also realized how in tune his mother's values were with that of our Elder Club. And, he said that I gave him a great assignment to think about, share why you want to name Elder Club Faye's Place. And he got to go back down memory lane and realize how aligned his mother and Faye's Place really are.
Is his mother still around?
She is not. She's a blessed memory.
Okay, but I'm getting a chill just hearing that. What a great way to remember somebody. I just love that story. So to his credit, what a great thing that, he did to remember his mom. Talk a little bit about then, so any other programs you guys are running?
Yeah, I can quickly share that we have a case management program, which is a free program for anyone in the community that needs resource connection. So if you are moving your aging mother and father here from Florida and you need help understanding what the housing environment looks like, if you need help with crisis funding, if you need any sort of direction, social support direction, our case manager is invaluable in providing resources. So that's a free phone call to us, and she will hook you up.
Okay, again, case manager's name is?
Carrie McGuire.
Okay, and nice thing, I hope people are realizing that, again, and I think your case manager being an example of this, you don't have to be Jewish to participate in any of this stuff,
No. So JFS is an organization guided by Jewish values.
I love
it. If I might be so bold as to say, Jewish values are human values. They are values by which we walk about our life with intention and purpose. And everything we do is guided by those Jewish values. And there are some parts of our organization where we do have that special touch towards our Jewish community, like our holiday meal delivery program, which just happened over Passover, which I know that you used to volunteer doing, if I recall correctly.
Sure.
That holiday meal delivery program is one of the foundational programs before JFS was JFS. Meal deliveries during Passover, Hanukkah, and Rosh Hashanah were that touch for our Jewish community, that touch point to say, if you are an isolated, Jewish older adult and you would just love a Rosh Hashanah meal, we are going to deliver it for you by a volunteer, and you've got some camaraderie and someone to share this holiday with. It's just one
You
of those
mentioned
touches.
a key thing, what you folks do in terms of working with volunteers. Talk a little bit about that process. So one of the things you already mentioned, that you have a lot of volunteers who come in to help. I assume you welcome them still and all the time?
Yes, we do. We do run a full background check on anybody who's interested in volunteering, but opportunities to work with Phase Place, because we do have a program manager. Brendan is our program manager, Brendan Hanover, and Brendan has a coordinator. But when you have 11 older adults in a room, many of whom need a little bit more individual attention, we need some volunteers to do things like help people up, assist them towards the restroom, help clear people's meals out from in front of them, help support the activities that are going on in the room, whether it's crafting or science or whatever it is. So we have program volunteers, and then we have what we would call like facilitators who come in and bring programming to Phase Place. So whether it's playing guitar or one of our volunteers carves a pirate ship out of a watermelon. So you can have any random skill that you might want to share with our older adults at Phase Place, and we will take you in as a volunteer. So that's one opportunity.
If people want to volunteer with Jewish Family Services, what do they do?
They can send an email to info, I-N-F-O, at jfswnc.org, and that will get to any number of people that will then put you in the right place. If you have mentioned specifically that you want to deliver meals, that will go to someone. Last spring, I got this was a wonderful email into info at, and it was a newly relocated young couple that wanted to do some garden work and asked if there was any space at JFS for gardening. And lo and behold, we have this gorgeous overrun courtyard that was really looking like an eyesore. And they came in, they cleaned it up, they planted gorgeous plants. And then by October, we actually built a sukkah in that courtyard.
How cool.
And we were able to support Elder Club in the sukkah in the courtyard. And it's coming back this year. So that was just a wonderful random, someone wanting to volunteer in a place that they knew, Jewish Family Services, and do something they loved.
And Cindy, overall, if folks want to find out about the organization, but there's some of these programs you mentioned, best bet is to go to a website?
www.jfswnc.org.
Okay, I'll ask you to repeat that again.
Yep. JF as in Frank, S as in Sam, WNC.org.
Okay, and I'll get them information about all the various programs you offer?
That'll give it. Yep.
Okay. Well, anyway, I have to, first of all, thank you again for being with us today, because earlier in the week, maybe I didn't think you'd be able to make it, but a real trooper, so thank you. Hopefully you'll be better by the time this airs, and we'll hopefully even get to see you in person at some point in time.
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Okay, I can't believe it's been a year since you've been here, so finally we got to talk, and we'll hopefully get to meet soon thereafter. Cindy, you be well.